Basketball fans, welcome back. So, the BAL, the Sahara Conference, came to a close this Sunday, and we got to see the teams that qualified. We had the River Hoopers winning the Sahara Conference. We had the AS Downers team clinching the second spot. We had the comeback that defined the Sahara Conference in the US Monastir team. They finished with a 3-3 record. They also qualified, and the imaginary team in Bangui that were waiting for the result of the Sahara Conference also got eliminated, and APR got eliminated. So in this video, I'll be talking about and just giving a rundown on what happened and the highlights of the 2024 Sahara Conference, just the same way we did with the Nile Conference, the same thing we did with the Kalahari prior to these playoffs that are slated to be in 24th May to June 1st. So without further ado, let me just get into it. So the River Hoopers, they went ahead and won the Sahara Conference. So the River Hoopers, they won the Sahara Conference with a 4-2 record, becoming the first Nigerian side to advance to the BAL playoffs, the postseason. So in their debut in 2021, the Kingsmen finished with a 1-2 record, but this time around, the Port Harcourt-based team outclassed their opponents with an impressive style of play, especially with the first 4 games when they won them back to back. And that win they had against APR, which that win that they had against APR, we saw in the first go around, but in the second go around, you saw them. They got stopped. They got stopped twice in the final 2 games. But after they already won the games, there was that sense of, they don't have to go too much and go all in. So they lost 2 games after they just qualified and notched the first spot, because they already had a very good point differential, and they didn't even need to do too much to get to that point. And the River Hoopers, full credit to them, they came in and they balled out. Their squad was spectacular, and out of the teams that we've seen playing in BAL conference wise, we have seen them emerge as a West African powerhouse nation alongside the AS Downers, because majority of the time the North African teams are the ones that just run basketball in the continent. If you look at Morocco, we had FUS Rabat topping the Kalahari Conference. We had Al Ahly from Egypt topping the Nile Conference, and also Al Ahly Benghazi from Libya was number 2. So you could see the North African teams were dominating. And also, not to mention and not forget, the USM team hailing from Tunisia. This is a team that had a comeback, which we're going to look at in the few moments to come. So in this season, we had a couple of things happen. We had the overtime game. So the race for the 3 playoff spots was so intense that only 4 of the 12 conference games registered double-digit win margins. So they were very close. They were very clutch. And the 4 teams' tenacity to extend their season beyond May 12th was illustrated between the APR and US Monastir game, which happened, which was the first game to open up the BL. This game recorded the first overtime, and it ended 89-84, for the first overtime since 2022, since 2 years ago. Then a week later, we had the double overtime. So the first game in BAL history to go double overtime was the River Hoopers versus the APR game. So the River Hoopers, they beat APR 78-71. And I must say, this was the game that the APR team stretched themselves too much, and they somewhat just gave the River Hoopers the game. Despite their valiant efforts to win the game, it wasn't enough. And this game had to be decided by double overtime. So when I was watching this game, even I made a previous video talking about it, I saw this game was just done and dusted. I thought this game, I was watching it, I thought, in regulation, I know the River Hoopers are just going to go ahead and win it. But they had the poorest start. But because APR just was very inconsistent, they weren't able to finish it up. They were not able to finish them off. So this game, I saw after the end of regulation, the end of the first overtime, I thought, what, it's 5 minutes, they're going to go ahead and do it. But the game, when it went to the second overtime, I was like, what's going on here? This is a first. This was a first for me, because I was taken aback, because I'm used to NBA overtimes in the US when I'm watching NBA games. Even at some point, I've witnessed a 4 overtime epic between the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trail Blazers way back in the 2019 postseason. So I was used to overtimes, but this one just caught me off guard. But I was excited to see the River Hoopers going ahead and winning it. So these overtimes just show you like the games were very intense and no team was letting up as every game counted. You could see how the losses affected USM, the first, second, and third loss. Then they went ahead and won 3 straight, and the rest is history. So even speaking about USM, let's just talk about them because these guys were just insane, and they just show you the heart of a champion. So the 2022 BAL season winners lost their first 3 games in the conference, but in a ton of events, the USM team won their last 3 games to advance to the playoffs. This was a comeback from behind because as the days progressed, I saw the USM team were just dead in the water. At some point, I was just even questioning Aterma Joke. I was questioning Marcus Crawford. I was asking myself, what is really going on with this team? Because this is not the same USM performance that we're used to seeing. I know even last year they didn't make the playoffs, but they still looked competitive. The only thing that happened was they were taken away by the point differential, and they were not able to go ahead and win it. So this poor start that they had really threw a spanner in the works, and everything just went downhill when they lost their first game in overtime against APR. I just felt like they just got knocked on the chin, and there's a high likelihood they can go ahead and come back. But when they took their second L, when they took the third L, that's when I raised my eyebrows. I was like, especially losing to the River Hoopers in embarrassing fashion, losing to Ace Downes in embarrassing fashion as well, which were actually not even like they were very embarrassing. Especially that Ace Downes game they lost. So I was asking myself, the USM team, this is not how they play because their culture is all about winning. But they were able to turn it around. And no other team in the history of BL has ever fought an 0-3 deficit to in the regular season to finish 3-3 and move on to the postseason. Because when they played their game against River Hoopers and they won it, I just saw them qualified and they were already bumped to the number 2 spot. But the result of the Ace Downes was a PR game to finish off the Sahara conference. They got bumped to the number 3 spot, but they're already qualified. So full credit to them because they came out and balled out and they showed the true heart of a champion. So these games, especially the home games where we've been seeing the Ace Downes team play, they've been actually packing out the gyms because we've been seeing 8,000 people in attendance. So the Senegalese fans turned out in large numbers for most of the Ace Downes games, with nearly 9,000 fans in the stands during the Le Gabelas 77-68 loss to the River Hoopers, which I must say it was an epic game. Even I covered it here. For the first time in league history, 2 African heads of state attended the BAL games together. So the Senegalese president, he's 44 years old, he came in, he's newly elected. Bariso Diomaye Faye hosted the Rwandan president Paul Kagame during the Ace Downes vs APR game. So it was a good sight to see that because both of these nations have shown that they are willing to put everything into basketball, and have shown that there's potential in African basketball. And having more of these types of leaders will really encourage more venues to be established, because you can see in the Dakar Arena, we have the huge mega arena there. In Kigali, got the BK Arena. There's so many possibilities when teams and teams play well and their governments and federation back them. So in this postseason, we're not going to see any Rwandan team in the playoffs, which I must say it's very upsetting, because Rwanda is the place where the teams are going to conglomerate for the playoffs. And it's unfortunate that we are not going to see a Rwandan-based team, because APR, they had the worst performance. REG are the team that run the BAL. They're the team that is well constructed and they know what to do, especially when it comes to Basketball Africa League. APR, this is their first go around, and man, they just wet the bed and they were not good at all. At least even the Patriots finished number 4 inaugural season. They finished number 4 because there's a third place game there. But looking at the way the APR team played, they finished off the 2-4 record. Winning their first game was a very good thing, but since then it has just been an uphill battle for them. And I must say, APR, we saw the loss of Adonis Fila and Obadiah Noel. They missed their two decisive games due to injury, closing out the Sahara Conference the 2-4 mark. This is the first time in the league history that Rwanda won't have a team in the playoffs. Patriots Basketball Club and REG carried the Rwandan flag in the first three editions of the Pan-African Basketball League. So we're not going to see any Rwandan team. Then the top performers in this tournament, there were guys that went ahead and just played so well. There were a number of top individuals' performance throughout the nine-day event, but some were so impactful that their names will be forever associated with the 2024 Sahara Conference. So Noel, this guy was just insane. Noel may have been sidelined for the past two games of the conference with a hamstring injury, but his buzzer beater 3-point that saw APR upset US Monastir 89-84 in overtime is undeniably a moment to remember. And mind you, this is the first game in the Sahara Conference, so this game was just another one for the ages. Athletically gifted Devin Eke came out balling for the first from the tip-off to the last game of the Sahara Conference. Eke finished as the only player to record 3 double-doubles in 6 conference games. So you can see Devin Eke, he was the man of the hour, and his play with the River Hoopers was just sensational and spectacular. And the qualified teams, AS Downers, River Hoopers, US Monastir, and River Hoopers topping with a 4-2 record, AS Downers 3-3, US Monastir 3-3 with that comeback from behind. They both qualified. The imaginary team in Bangui, they even made a post and statement saying that they were just waiting on the result of this Sahara Conference to see their fate, because if you looked at the way the Nile Conference ended, the Cape Town Tigers, because they had a very good point differential, they were able to sneak into the playoffs. So they were hoping that the AS Downers and APR game would be a low-scoring game. If it was a low-scoring game, they would have slid through. But the basketball gods just set everything up, and the home team were able to clinch the last slot. And man, that's just a rundown on what happened in the BAL this weekend. Was good, and man, I was just entertained, especially in the last few days from the BAL. I was watching every single game, and also if you've been following this channel closely, you'll see that there are a couple of videos I've released talking and going in depth, even in the stat sheet, statistics, just talking about these games. So if you guys like the video, make sure to leave your feedback down in the comment section what you think about this. Man, it was just a fun Sahara Conference, and I'm just waiting for the playoffs, because that's where all the champions are going to collide, and it's just going to be epic. So yeah, man, I'm going to talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out.